One way to solve an equation is to use algebra tiles. Algebra tiles help you to see the importance of using the properties of quality. You can add, subtract, multiply, or divide each side of an equation by the same number and the equation is still true.
Write the modeled equation, then solve it.
The first thing we have to do is figure out what this equation is. So we have to figure out, well, this is 1, 2, 3x's and then 1, 2. So that'll be a 3x plus 2 on this side of our equation. On this side, we're going to have to add up all of these ones, and on that side, that is equal to 11 ones. So that means our equation is 3x plus 2 is equal to 11. So now we have to go ahead and solve. So the first thing we're going to have to do is get rid of these ones over here because that's stopping the variables from being by itself. So I'm going to subtract these two ones, and notice there's no equal sign. So if I took away two ones over here, I have to maintain equivalency and do the same thing to this side. So I'm going to take away two ones. Now it is equal. So now we have 3x's, but we need to figure out the value of 1x. So what we can do is divide these x's into three separate groups. So we divided the x's into three separate groups. Now we need to go ahead and divide these ones to three separate groups. I went ahead and divided the ones evenly, and I noticed that there were 3 ones in each group. So that means x is equal to 3. So I just solved that problem using the algebra tiles. Now I'm going to solve this problem, 3x plus 2 equals 11, algebraically. So when we are solving for variables, we have to use something I like to call the order of operation in reverse. So we should know the order of operation. You may have heard of please excuse my dear Aunt Sally or PEMDAS. So when we're solving for variables, instead of going from top to bottom, we're actually going to go from bottom to top. This is the way we have to start undoing things. So you have to say to yourself, well, is there something connected through addition and subtraction here? Well, if we look here, this x and this 2 is connected through addition because this is a positive 2 and it's being added to the 3x. So we're going to start undoing that first. The inverse of addition is subtraction. In order to undo this positive 2, we're going to have to subtract 2 on both sides to maintain equivalency. These are additive inverses. They cancel out and make 0. So we're left with 3x on this side of the equal sign. And 11 minus 2, it is 9. So when we use the algebra tiles, we know we had to first get rid of those ones because it was stopping x from being by itself. We had to subtract those ones. And then we had to maintain equivalency. So we ended up with 3x on this side, and then we had equal to 9. And then the next step I had to do, well, I had to divide the x's into the 3 separate groups. And then I had to divide the ones over here into 3 even groups. So that's what we're going to do next. So we undid addition and subtraction. Now we have to move on to multiplication and division. So what's connected through multiplication or division? Well, this 3 is connected through multiplication. And the inverse of multiplication is division. So that means we're going to have to divide 3 on both sides of the equal sign. 3x divided by 3, it is equal to x. 9 divided by 3, it is equal to 3. So that means x is equal to 3. But remember, you always have to check. And the way you check, all you do is have to substitute the value of x into your original equation. So we found out x was equal to 3. So now we have to simplify. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 2 equals 11, and 9 plus 2 equals 11, and 11 definitely equals 11. So x is equal to 3. Now if both sides does not come out to be equal, then we did some mistake and we will have to redo the problem. Solve the equation 6x minus 5 equals 19 using the algebra tiles. So on this side we have 6x's and 5 negative 1. So this side of the equation will look like 6x plus negative 5. Or you can say 6x minus 5. Now on this side you have to add up all of the ones, and we end up with 19. So the first thing you have to do is get rid of these negative ones. And in order to get rid of those negative ones, you're actually going to add ones because we want them to cancel out and make 0. So we're going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones. But remember, whatever you do to one side, you have to do to the other. So I'm going to add 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 ones over here as well. So now notice we have -1 and a +1. Those are 0 pairs. When you combine them, they make 0. So notice I combined them over here, and I ended up with just 6x plus 0. So all of these 0 pairs, I'm going to get rid of them because they cancel out, and I'm just left with 6x on this side. So we have 6 x's on this side. Now I have to go ahead and evenly divide them into groups. Alright, so now I have my 6 x's over here. So over here with my 24 ones, I'm going to have to divide them into 6 even groups. So I went ahead and I evenly divided all of the ones and all of the x's. Notice for every 1 x, I have 4 ones. So that means x is equal to 4. Alright, I just explained how to solve this equation using the algebra tiles. Now we need to solve this algebraically. So when you are solving for variables, you have to make sure you use the order of operation in reverse. So we're going to first start by undoing addition and subtraction. So what is connected to the variable through addition or subtraction? Well, this 5 is connected through subtraction because it's a -5. In order to undo this -5, we need to do the inverse of subtraction, which is addition. So we're going to add 5 on both sides of the equal sign. So this cancels out and makes 0. Now we're left with 6x on this side of the equal sign. 19 plus 5, that is equal to 24. So we took care of addition and subtraction. Now we have to see if anything is connected through multiplication or division. Well, this 6 is. The 6 and the x is connected through multiplication. In order to undo this, you have to do the inverse or the opposite of multiplication, which is division. So we're going to divide 6 on both sides. 6x divided by 6, it is x. And 24 divided by 6, it is 4. So now you know you always have to check, and the way you check, all you have to do is substitute the value of x into your original equation. So we found out x was equal to 4, so all we had to do was substitute 4 in for x. Now we need to simplify each side of the equation. 6 times 4, it is 24 minus 5, and 24 minus 5 is 19, and 19 is definitely equal to 19, so that means x is equal to 4.
Solving a two-step equation requires transforming the equation into a series of simpler equivalent equations until you isolate the variable on one side and a number on the other side. For many equations, you can undo addition or subtraction first. Solve x divided by 3 plus 1 and 5/10 equals 2 and 75/100. Undo addition by subtracting 1 and 5/10 from each side. X divided by 3 equals 1 and 25/100. To isolate the variable, undo multiplication or division next. The coefficient of the variable should be 1. Now solve the equation x divided by 3 equals 1 and 25/100. Undo division by multiplying each side by 3. X equals 3 and 75/100. Check your answer by substituting it into the original equation.
Hey, this working backward technique reminds me of my favorite detective show. It's like what the detectives do when they retrace steps to find missing information. That's so cool!
Drag the tiles to complete the solution.
we have to figure out the first step of solving this problem. And remember, when you are solving for variables, you have to use the order of operation in reverse. So we're going to start by undoing addition and subtraction first. So we have to look, well, what do we have to add or subtract on both sides? Well, here this negative 3 and 7,500 is connected through subtraction, so that means we are going to have to add that on both sides of the equal sign. So here, right here, this step shows us adding 3 and 7,500. We're going to do the same thing to the other side to maintain equivalency. Now we're going to have to simplify that. We're left with 5b on this side of the equal sign, and when we add those two numbers, we end up with 30. So we went ahead and started undoing addition and subtraction. Now we have to undo multiplication and division. So here, this 5, what do we have to do to isolate the variable? Well, we're going to have to divide by 5 because that 5 in the variable is connected through multiplication, and the inverse of multiplication is division. So you have to divide 5 on both sides. So that's dividing 5b by 5, and this is dividing 30 by 5. Now all we have to do is simplify 5b divided by 5, it is b, and 30 divided by 5, it is 6.
Drag the tiles to complete the solution.
With this problem, we have to figure out the steps. So I'm just going to separate these just to see all of the options. These are in random order. So the first step, we have 5b minus 3 and 7/500 equals 26 and 2,500. So let's look at this one. It says addition property of equality, no. Division property of equality, no. Write the original equation. Okay, so I believe that is the first one. That is us writing out the original equation. Now here we had to add 3 and 7,500 on both sides. So let's look at these options. Addition property of equality. So that is the addition property of equality because we had to add something on both sides and that maintain equivalency. So now let's look at this part. 5b equals 30. So that step, we actually had to simplify from the first part because we had to combine our like terms, and that was considered simplifying. Now here, 5b divided by 5 equals 30 divided by 5. So we actually had to use the division property of equality because we had to divide 5 on both sides. And the last step, we had to simplify. So these are the steps that we had to take to solve that problem. Solve the equation k halves plus 7 and 3/10 equals 29 and 3/10. Remember, when you are solving for variables, you have to use the reverse order of operation. So that means you have to first start undoing addition and subtraction. So what is connected through addition or subtraction? Well, this 7 and 3/10 is. And to get rid of this or to undo this, you have to use the inverse of addition. So you're going to have to subtract 7 and 3/10 on both sides of the equal sign. So over here, that cancels out and makes 0. Now we're left with k halves is equal to 29 and 3/10 minus 7 and 3/10 is equal to 22. Now we undid addition and subtraction. Now we have to move on to multiplication and division. Well, over here we have k halves, and this 2 is stopping k from being by itself and is connected through division. So the inverse of division is multiplication. So that means we're going to have to multiply 2 on both sides of the equal sign. Now I'm going to cross simplify over here. I'm left with k on this side of the equal sign, and 22 times 2, it is 44. So k should be equal to 44. But remember to always check your work, and the way you check your work, it is just substitute the value of k into your original equation. So instead of putting k, we're going to put 44, and then we're going to have to put that over 2 plus 7 and 3/10 is equal to 29 and 3/10. 44 divided by 2 is 22, plus the 7 and 3/10 should be equal to 29 and 3/10. 22 plus 7 3/10 is equal to 29 3/10, which equals to 29 3/10. So that means K is actually equal to 44.
I can't believe they're coming here! We've got to get tickets, come on!
You are ordering concert tickets online. Each ticket costs $39.95, and you have a processing fee of $12.75. The total cost is $212.50. Write and solve an equation to find the number of tickets ordered.
The first thing we're going to do to solve this question is annotate. So I'm going to highlight my given information in yellow. So it says each ticket costs $39.95. Then we have a processing fee of $12.75, and the total cost is $212.50. Now my find, it says write and solve an equation to find the number of tickets ordered. So the first thing we have to do is write this out in words. Now we know in 7th grade when we build our equations, we set it equal to our total. On the other side, we're going to have to include each ticket, and we know it's $39.95, and the processing fee. So in words, it will look like cost per ticket times the number of tickets plus the processing fee. Now, how this will look if we were to put this in an equation, well, what's the total cost? Well, it says the total cost is $212.50. And then cost per ticket, which we know it is $39.95 times the number of tickets. Well, do we know how many tickets there are? No. So let's use a variable. And then we have to add the processing fee, and the processing fee is $12.75. Now, when you're building equations, you always have to identify your variable. T represents the number of tickets. In order to solve this equation, we first need to use the reverse order of operation. We need to first start by undoing addition or subtraction. So what's connected to the variable t through addition or subtraction? Well, here this 12, this positive 12 and 7,500 is connected through addition. So we have to undo addition by using the inverse of addition, which is subtraction. So we're going to subtract this 12 and 7,500 on both sides of the equal sign. So this cancels out and makes 0. We're left with 39 and 9,500 t on this side of the equal sign. And over here, when we go ahead and subtract 212 and 5/10 minus 12 and 7,500, we end up with 199 and 7,500. So that was the first step, undoing addition and subtraction. Now we have to move on to undoing multiplication and division. Well, what's connected through multiplication or division? Well, this 39 and 9,500 is connected through multiplication. In order to undo this, we have to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we're going to divide 39 and 9,500 on both sides of the equal sign. So this side cancels out and we're left with t. Now we have to do 199 and 7,500 divided by 39 and 9,500, and that will be equal to 5. So t is equal to 5, and don't forget to check. When you check, all you have to do is substitute the value of the variable into your original equation. I went ahead and substituted 5 in for the variable. 39 and 9,500 times 5 is 199 and 7,500. Then I had to add 12 and 7,500 to that, which gave me 212 and 5/10, and 212 and 5/10 is equal to 212 and 5/10. So that means our variable is equal to 5.
A boating club rents sailboats for $60 for the first hour and $20 for each additional hour. When you return your boat, your fee is $140. Write and solve an equation to find how many hours you kept the boat.
The first thing we need to do to help us figure out this problem is annotate. We're going to highlight our given information. So the given information is, it says a boating club rents sailboats for $60 for the first hour and $20 for each additional hour. When you rent your boat, your fee is $140. So that's the fee. Now our find, it says write and solve an equation to find how many hours you keep the boat. So remember, when you're building equations, you first need to set it equal to your total. So in 7th grade, when you're building equations, you set it equal to your total. So how would that look in words? The total cost is equal to what? Well, we have to figure out what makes up the total cost. Well, we know $60 for the first hour and $20 for each additional hour. But how would that look in words? Cost of the first hour plus cost of additional hour times the number of additional hours. So that's how this will look in words. Now we have to figure out how this will look in an equation. Well, what is the total cost? Well, here it says when you return your boat, your fee is $140. So that means that's your total fee. That's how much you paid in all, $140. Now, cost of the first hour. What is the cost of the first hour? Here it tells you $60 for the first hour. So that'll be 60 plus cost of additional hour. What's the cost of the additional hours? Well, it says $20 for each additional hour. So that's 20 times number of additional hours. Well, we don't know how many additional hours we have, so we're going to use a variable. And remember, whenever you have a variable, you always have to identify your variable. So the variable h represents the number of additional hours. Now we have our equation. 140 is equal to 60 plus 20h. Remember, when you are solving for the variable, you have to use the reverse order of operation. That means start undoing addition and subtraction first. Well, what's connected to the variable through addition or subtraction? Well, this 60 is connected through addition because it's a positive 60. Now we have to go ahead and get rid of this 60 by doing the inverse of addition, which is subtraction. So that means we're going to subtract 60 on both sides of the equal sign. Over here, this cancels out, and I'm left with 20h on this side of the equal sign. Now we have to go ahead and subtract 60 from 140, which is equal to 80. So that's the first step of solving for the variables. We undid addition and subtraction. Now we have to move on to undoing multiplication and division. Well, is there anything connected through multiplication or division? Yes, this 20 is connected through multiplication. And in order to undo multiplication, you have to do the inverse of multiplication, which is division. So we're going to divide 20 on both sides of the equal sign. Over here, I'm left with h, and we know 80 divided by 20, it is 4. So h, which is the number of additional hours, should be 4. So now you have to remember to always go ahead and check your work. When you check your work, all you have to do is go ahead and substitute the value of h, in this case, in for your variable. So I did 140 equals 60 plus 20 times 4. And 20 times 4 is 80. 80 plus 60 is 140. And 140 is definitely equal to 140. So that means h is equal to 4. And the number of additional hours is 4.